नमो तस्सै भगवतो अरहतो सम्मा सम्बुद्धस्सै नमो तस्सै भगवतो अरहतो सम्मा सम्बुद्धस्सै नमो तस्सै भगवतो अरहतो सम्मा सम्बुद्धस्सै बुद्धं शरणं गच्छामि धम्मं शरणं गच्छामि संघं शरणं गच्छामि द्वितीयंपि बुद्धं शरणं गच्छामि द्वितीयंपि धम्मं शरणं गच्छामि द्वितीयंपि संघं शरणं गच्छामि तृतीयंपि बुद्धं शरणं गच्छामि तृतीयंपि धम्मं शरणं गच्छामि तृतीयंपि संघं शरणं गच्छामि पाणातिपाता वीरमणि सिक्खापदं समाधियामि अदिन्नदाना वीरमणि सिक्खापदं समाधियामि कामेषु मिच्छाचारा वीरमणि सिक्खापदं समाधियामि मूसावादा वीरमणि सिक्खापदं समाधियामि सुरामेरयमज्जपमादठाणा वीरमणि सिक्खापदं समाधियामि सब्बपापस्सकरणं कुशलस्य उपसम्पदा सचित्तपर्योदपनम् एतं बुद्धानशासनम् साधु साधु साधु
Yes, okay. Thank you very much for your invitation. I'm sitting here at the Buddhavihara, St. Petersburg, Russia. So this is the first time that I am talking to World Buddhist Congregation, and I want to explain you what I am doing here in Russia. I think maybe you heard about how Buddhism occurred in Russia. The first Buddhists came to Russia even maybe 200 or 300 years after the death of the Buddha, after the king or the emperor Ashoka sent the Buddhist missionary to different directions of the world, even sent the Buddhist missionary to European countries, to China, to Pakistan, to Afghanistan, even to Iraq and Iran. And one of the group of missionary came to Russia. So I can say that Buddhism is the traditional religion in Russia. But today I want to talk to you not about how Buddhism acknowledged as a world religion here in Russia, but I want to make you to understand that Buddhism here in Russia, for the new Russian generation, they are practicing Buddhism at the psychology or psychotherapy. So Buddhism is quite popular here in Russia, and I think not only in Russia, but also in the other European countries. And here in Russia, we have already, I think, at the Buddhavihara, St. Petersburg, more than 100,000 Russian people came here to practice meditation. And I can say that most of Russian practitioners here in Russia, they are practicing Buddhism not as religion. I never try Russian people to believe in Buddhism, but I always told and taught my Russian disciples, my Russian followers, to practice Buddhism as a psychology or psychotherapy, not as religion. I think I want to make Buddhism different from other religion, because other religion, what is the concept of religion? When we are talking about religion, we are talking about belief. What you have to believe, they call religion. And in Buddhism, the belief is how to believe, and to believe is not the main idea or is not the conceptual idea of Buddhism to believe. The conceptual idea of Buddhism not to believe, but to learn, to practice, to understand, and to analyze what the Buddha said to you. So in a modern world, I think people already fed up with religion to believe, and I think especially European people and people in the modern world, not only in European countries, not only in Russia, even in Thailand, in the Buddhist countries like Thailand, like Sri Lanka, yeah, even in China or in Japan, in different countries where people practice Buddhism as their traditional practice in the daily life. But young generation around the world, they want to learn Buddhism as the philosophy, as the teaching, as the psychotherapy that can help them in a daily life. I can say that even in Thailand, I'm from Thailand. My origin is Thailand. Even I live in Russia almost 30 years already. But I can say that young generation in Thailand, they don't want to believe Buddhism as the way of belief, how to believe, and as the belief, just as the faith. But they want to know what is Buddhism as the instrument to kill or to to kill or to protect them from the psychological problems or mental problems. I think, as you know, that we have the mental problems, we have the physical problem, we have the mental problem, we have the also psychological problems and spiritual problems. So Buddhism can be very useful for the world, for people from different corners of the world at a psychotherapy. If you want to praise, if you want to make people to believe in Buddhism, you are doing the wrong thing. You see that the Buddha never pressed people to believe. The Buddha never tried people to believe, but the Buddha tried to teach people the teaching or the techniques, or I can use as the teaching of the Buddha. He taught people the system of psychotherapy, not to believe, but to can cure their mental illness, or mental sickness, or spiritual sickness, or spiritual illness. So in Russia, we are practicing Buddhism. We are learning Buddhism. We are doing practice called samatha meditation and vipassana meditation intensively. And I can say that in the future, I think Buddhism will be one of the most strong religions in Russia. But I want to tell you why I call Buddhism as a religion which is different from other religions in Russia or in European countries. The other religion, they are trying to make people, even to control people to believe in God. But in Buddhism, it's a religion of freedom, religion of liberation, religion of learning, and religion of practicing, and religion of understanding, and religion of the wisdom. Buddhism is not the blinded belief. Buddhism is not just to believe. Just to believe is not the Buddhism, but Buddhism is a religion which you have to study the teaching of the Buddha. You have to learn, you have to analyze the teaching of the Buddha. Even the Buddha said in the Kalama Sutra that do not believe in the holy scriptures. Do not believe because of the logic. Do not believe because of the hearsay. Do not believe because it's very good theory. Do not believe because it's possibility. Even the Buddha said that do not believe because I am your teacher. Do not believe because I am your teacher. You have to believe me. So, for young generation, religion as the belief, as the blinded belief. I don't want to say the name of other religions that people are living, and the religion that will be the Israel in European countries, even in the modern world. So I think Buddhism as the world religion, Buddhism is the third world religion, and Buddhism will be the lasted world religion. So because why? The first religion, the first world religion, and the lasted world religion. You see that Buddhism occurred before the birth of the Jesus Christ for 543 years. But you see that even in many European countries, in European countries, people are living that religion. Because that religion or those religion couldn't give the very reasonable answer to their lives. They need the reasonable answers to their life. And Buddhism is very reasonable and very useful for the mental and psychological problem and spiritual problem. So at my temple, more than 40 or 50,000 people already came here to do meditation, to practice vipassana meditation. So I want to go back to Buddhist countries, former Buddhist countries. I think like India. India is one of the wonderful country. There are many 100,000 already practitioners who were seeking the enlightenment and liberation, spiritual liberation. But you see that it's very sad and it's a big pity when we look back, take a look back to the country called India, because India is not a Buddhist country anymore. And I want young generation in India, Indian young generation to learn Buddhism. Buddhism is the history of India. And I can say that Buddhism is the main identity, national identity of India. Now Russian people are trying to practice Buddhism, but look back to India. Indian people, how many percent of Indian peoples who are doing meditation? How many percent of young Indian generation who are learning the teaching of the Buddha? So you see, Pasaviti Nastya. Нет, она здесь или там? Пригласи сюда. It's already the second generation. Now I have more than 100 young Russian babies, young Russian children, very young. Their parents came to practice meditation here at the Buddhavihara. And now those people who came to practice meditation 20 years ago or 15 years ago or 10 years ago here at the Buddhavihara, St. Petersburg, Russia, those people, they have children, and their children are coming to do meditation. They can chant the Buddhist mantras, morning chanting, evening chanting. They love practice Buddhism and they love practice meditation. Buddhism is not the belief. Buddhism is the way of living. Buddhism is the medicine. Buddhism is the spiritual medicine. Buddhism is the mental medicine. Buddhism is the medical methodology that you can use to cure and to heal your mental, spiritual sickness. I really believe in the future. In Russia, more and more Russian people, young Russian generation, believe in Buddhism and practice Buddhism. Buddhism is not the belief. There are many different religions that you can believe, but you should not believe in Buddhism. You have to practice Buddhism. You have to learn Buddhism. You have to get the result from your learning and practicing Buddhism. And after you get the result, after getting the result of your learning and practicing, then you can believe in Buddhism. To believe is the last thing that you should do. More and more Russian people practice Buddhism. I think more than 10,000 or 20,000 or 50,000 Russian people went to visit Bodh Gaya yearly. Maybe more than 30,000 or 50,000 yearly Russian Buddhists, Russian practitioners went to visit Lumbini. More than 10,000 or 20,000 or 30,000 Russian peoples went to visit Kushinara. More than 50,000 Russian peoples, Russian practitioners went to visit Saranath. So I want Thai people, I want Indian peoples, what we are doing. We are losing our spiritual identity. So Buddhism is the identity, national spiritual identity of India. Buddhism is the national, traditional, spiritual identity of Thai people. And the most dangerous thing for young generation, and the enemy of Buddhism is materialism. Young generation around the world, when a young generation in European country are practicing Buddhism, young Thai generation, they are seeking materialism. Young Indian generation are looking for the thing called materialism. You have to know that the teaching of the Buddha is the medicine. The teaching of the Buddha is a spiritual, mental techniques. You can spend the teaching of the Buddha when you have the mental and spiritual problems. If you have the bodily problem or physical problem, you can go to see the doctor at the hospital or at the clinic. So Buddhism is a mental clinic or the mental spiritual hospital for people around the world. It's already 2,600 years, 8 years ago. The Buddha got enlightenment. And many centuries that people in India and different countries practice Buddhism. And after they left Buddhism, what happened in their countries? You see the problem in Afghanistan. Even you see the problem in Iraq and in Iran. Those countries used to be Buddhist countries. You see what's happening in Central Asian countries. Because they believe. Because they believe in other religions. Because they don't practice the teaching of the Buddha, they don't learn the teaching of the Buddha. So more educated society, I can say that Russia is a very high educated country. Why educated? Or I call intelligentsia in Russian society, people in a very high level or very high society people, very high educated people in Russia, they decided to practice meditation because they know more educated people, more people who are understanding that materialism is very dangerous for the world, for the humanity. More people practice Buddhism. So in the future, I really believe that Buddhism is a religion of the modern world. Maybe not call that religion, maybe we cannot call that religion Buddhism, but we will call that religion the religion of loving kindness, religion of metta, religion of karuna, religion of loving kindness, religion of love. And Buddhism is a religion of compassion. Brahmavihara, religion of the Brahmavihara. We are waiting for the next Buddha who is coming very soon in the next 2,500 years. The Buddha Maitreyi. But why we have to wait for the Buddha Maitreyi? If we are living with the teaching of the Buddha called Siddhartha Gautama, at the moment, in Thailand we have the fantasy. Many Thai people have the fantasy that one day we will have the next Buddha who is coming in the next 2,500 years. And I told people that no need to wait for the Buddha called the Buddha Maitreya. If we are living it loving kindness and compassion, because the main idea or the milestone of the teaching of the Buddha Maitreya is loving kindness and compassion. If you have love in your heart, you have compassion in your heart, you have the mental satisfaction in your heart, and you have the Nibbana in your heart, why you have to wait for the next Buddha? At the moment, we have the Buddha already. So I hope that I have visited India only once in my life, in January 2019, in January, only for 2 weeks. But I found that there are many Indian people who want to see Buddhism return back to India. Buddhism is very strong in different countries, even in Russia. We have many, I can say that many 100,000 of Russian practitioners in Moscow and in St. Petersburg. In every city of Russia, we have many thousand. Even in a small town, we have the Russian practitioners who practice Buddhist meditation and Buddhist philosophy. I want to see India and young Indian generation practice Buddhism, learn Tripitaka, learn the Tripitaka, the teaching of the Buddha, Vinaya Pitaka, Suttanta Pitaka, and Abhidhamma Pitaka. And at the same time, I want to see the education system of India give more importance of learning Buddhism in the educational system. Because you have to know that morality is the base of the sustainable development of the world. We want to see the sustainable development. You cannot use the belief or the blinded belief as the instrument to get the sustainable development. Sustainable development must start from the art of the people, from the art of the children. Because you have to know that the future of the children, in the future, those children, they will grow up. And then one day in the future, they will run the country. They will rule the country. They will control the country. They will be the adult of that country. We have to train the children. You see that I train my Russian disciples, and those Russian disciples, they came to practice Buddhism, and one day they have children, and they brought their children to practice and learn Buddhism. And the best teacher and the best sample mean their children must be the best sample and the first sample and the first teachers in their life. So do not consider Buddhism as the blinded belief. You have to use the teaching of the Buddha as the psychotherapy. As a psychology, that you can use in the very difficult times of your life. So I hope that my teaching today, my explanation today, my lecture today would be very useful for people around the world, especially young generation in India. I love India. And my great-grandfather from India. at least 25% in my body the Indian blood. I love India. Even my great-grandfather from India, he already passed away, but I love India. I love the Buddha from India. People said the Buddha from Nepal, but Nepal was the part of India, so I said that the Buddha from India. I went to India last year. I want to see young generation of India practice Buddhism and to protect Buddhism and become Buddhist practitioners again. And I hope that one day Indian peoples will use Buddhism as the spiritual medical instrument to cure your mental and spiritual illness and sickness. You want to see the world peace. You want to find peace. You are seeking peace. Especially, we are seeking peace, but the real peace is the inner peace in your mind. People are seeking the world peace. We have more than 400 wars around the world at the moment. We have 191 countries on this planet, but we have 400 wars around the world. 400 conflicts around the world. 191 countries, but we have 2 times wars and conflict more than the amount of countries around the world. That means at least 2 wars in one country. Even in a Buddhist country like Myanmar, we have around 40 wars. In Myanmar, as a Buddhist country, we have 40 wars. In Thailand, you see that we have many wars. War with Muslim, war between Muslim and Buddhist country. In Philippines, war between Roman Catholic people and Muslim peoples in the Mindanao, in the south of Philippines. In Iraq, in Iran, in Syria, in Afghanistan, even the war between China and India. People never look back to the war in their own mind. Because the real peace is the inner peace in our mind. So we are seeking peace, and we cannot find the peace in our mind. We have to study and learn the teaching of the Buddha as the medicine. I found that it is very painful, the war between China and India. And I can say that China was wrong in the conflict 2 or 3 weeks ago. And about more than 100 Indian soldiers died in the conflict. It's very sad and very painful situation. The evidence happened in Jammu Kashmir of India, in the mountainous region of India. In this situation, I am feeling very sad and very painful. But in this situation, you have to know that we cannot do with the war sometimes. I studied in the diplomatic school of St. Petersburg University. I was the professor, I was the lecturer at the School of International Relations of St. Petersburg State University, almost 20 years. And I found that the conflicts and wars around the world occurred from the lacking of spirituality, morality of the people. In this situation, I want to ask Indian peoples to pray for those people who passed away last 2 weeks ago. I hope that such kind of evidence should not occur again in the future. I pray for Indian soldiers. Every morning during these 2 or 3 weeks, I always pray for Indian soldiers who pass away, who die in the conflict. We are the sons and daughters of the Buddha. We are children of the Buddha. I know that you are crying in your heart. Your heart is crying. Your mind is crying. Inside, you have to use the teaching of the Buddha as the mental medicine and as the spiritual medicine in this situation. I'm a Buddhist, and I really believe that most of you are Buddhists. I believe in the law of karma. I believe in karma. We cannot escape from the result of our own karmas. And what people do, they will get the result of their own karmas. The karma is the rule of boomerang. When you throw away the boomerang to the air, to the sky, that boomerang will return back to your head or to your neck. Anything that you throw to the sky, those things will be the boomerang. The karmic boomerang will return back to your neck or to your head and will hurt you or maybe will kill you. What we can do? We have to return the Dharma, the teaching of the Buddha, back to the society. In every level of society, in every country, every society, every level of society, or into every community. The most dangerous war is the war in our own mind. In this situation, the war and conflicts between two countries or two countries. I really believe the question of Melinda fashion. You know the Melinda. The questions by Melinda. Melinda is the grandson of the Emperor Alexander, the Emperor Alexander of Macedonia. Jammu Kashmir used to be the place of spirituality. If you study or you heard about the Melinda questions, the discourse by Melinda, you can look at on the internet, the discourse by Melinda and Nakasena, the Arahat. Melinda questions. The Discourse by Melinda. Jammu Kashmir used to be the very quiet and silent and peaceful place. In Jammu Kashmir, at the moment, is one of the tense conflict, very dangerous place on earth. Jammu Kashmir is the heaven, used to be the heaven for everyone, for different religions. But now Jammu Kashmir is a conflict place. So you are Indian people, and my ancestors also came from India. At least 25% have Indian blood. Please use the teaching of our great teacher, the Buddha, Siddhartha Gautama, as the medicine for your mind. And I hope that one day Buddhism will return back to India again. And now you see that Buddhism is not the religion of people from Southeast Asian countries anymore, but Buddhism is the religion of very educated people and community, very educated society in European countries, in Russia, in Finland, in Norway, in Sweden, in Denmark, in United Kingdom, in Australia, in the USA, United States of America. People are practicing different tradition of Buddhist practice. So you have to be very proud of Buddhism. You have to be very proud that you are Buddhist. You are the son and you are the daughter of the Buddha. What is the meaning of Buddhism, of the word Buddhist? Buddhism, that means awaken. Awaken one. You have to be awakened. The awakened people. Enlightened people. And very wise people. You are the people of one of the wise man on earth, the Buddha, Siddhartha Gautama. You have to be very proud that the Buddha from India. And one day in the future, Buddhism will return back to India. I wish you happiness. I wish you health. I wish you prosperity. And I wish you enlightenment, Nibbana. Thank you very much for your listening and your attention. Thank you very much. Because I think 1 hour my lecture, my discourse today would be very useful for your learning Buddhism. And I really believe that one day your representative from India can come to St. Petersburg to give a lecture to Russian practitioners. And one day in the future, I can visit India and visit your group and your community and your organization. Thank you very much for your invitation and your kindness to give me the opportunity to give the lecture here for Indian peoples and for people from different corners of the world. Thank you very much. Sapitiyo vivachandu saparo ko vinasadu mate apavat วันตรายโยสุขีติกายุโกภวังอภิวาทนาสิลิสนิจจังวุตาปจายโนจัตตารโอธัมมาวาตันติอายุวันโนสุขังภาลังภวตุสัพพมังคลังรักขันตุสัพพเทวตาสัพพพุทธานุภาเวนะสัทธาโสทิภวันตุเตภวตุสัพพมังคลังรักขันตุสัพพเทวตาสัพพธัมมานุภาเวนะสัทธาโสทิภวันตุเตภวตุสัพพมังคลังรักขันตุสัพพเทวตาสัพพสังฆานุภาเวนะสัทธาโสทิภวันตุเตI wish you happiness, prosperity, and enlightenment. Nibbana. Thank you very much.